Are you wondering what the whole process of buying a house in the UK is? Are you on a tier 2 visa and you don't even know, can you even buy a house? I'll answer that today. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Sisi and I'm a Ghanaian medical doctor working in the UK. I nearly bought a house, but the process fell through at the end. I'll explain more about that later. But first, I want to answer if you can buy a house on a tier 2 visa. And obviously the answer is yes, you can. And why do people think that you can't? So it's a bit harder to buy a house because you're going to have less lenders available to you, but it can be done. The technical difficulties are that, number one, a lot of lenders want you to have been at least 5 years in the UK, even though you're on a tier 2 visa. Some of them want you to have permanent residency already. Some of them want you to have a larger deposit of at least 25 to even 40% the value of the house. And some of the lenders want you to have at least a total household income of £100,000. So first of all, if you've got the money to buy a house, if you got like 300, 400k at once to buy a house, then obviously you can't, no one is going to stop you. The difficulty comes in if you need a mortgage. So I'm going to explain all the steps needed to buy a house, including the mortgage. So let's just go back to the very beginning. Step one is find out how much do houses cost in the area that you want to live. So houses can vary from like 200k to, of course there's no maximum, to like 1 million and above. So in the southeast, which is where I live, the houses are at least like 300k and above. So for 300k you can get like a 2-bedroom house, and for the same amount of money you can get like a 4 to 5-bedroom house up north. So it really depends on where you're going to live. If you figured out exactly where you're going to live, then find out how much houses cost in that area and exactly the kind of house that you want. I checked mostly Rightmove, but there's also a website called Zoopla and On The Market. They show you all the houses in the area, how much they cost and that kind of thing. The next thing is to find out how much you can borrow. So you can do this by going to any bank's website and putting in all your information. They'll ask you how much you earn, how much you spend, and they calculate what is called affordability to see how much are you able to borrow and be able to still manage life. So on average, most banks would lend you between 4 to 6 times the amount of your gross salary. So if your gross salary is like £50,000, then that means you can expect to be lent like 5 times the amount, which is £250,000. I can see you doing the math. I've already said the house can cost like 300k. So what if you can only be lent 250k? Then obviously you have to bring the balance. So that's where the deposit comes in. Most people need at least 10% deposit. There is a scheme called the Help to Buy where they can allow you to bring only 5% and the government is going to lend you the other 5%, and then the bank will lend you the balance. So most people use the 10% deposit scheme, so that is 10% of the value of the house. So that's why you need to know how much houses in your area cost, so you can know how much of the deposit you need to save. This might be the hardest part of a journey because it can take a while to save up all that money. So once you've got your deposit, then next is to apply for a mortgage offer in principle. So you can do this by going to banks directly or applying online. It can take like just maybe 5 minutes and they'll let you know if you've got it or not. They usually do a soft credit check, which doesn't affect your credit score. If, however, you're on a tier 2 visa, I would highly recommend going with a mortgage advisor. They're like brokers basically that have access to the whole market. I would advise going for a whole market mortgage broker because then they're going to give you a better deal. And there are some who only have specific banks that they're attached to, because obviously they're going to get paid by those banks, but they might not be getting you the best deal that's available on the market. If you're on a tier 2 visa, you might also need what is called underwriting, which is where the mortgage advisor goes and speaks to the underwriting department of the bank directly. So for instance, if you don't have a great credit score, I personally have an excellent credit score. I think I'll make a separate video on that. So make sure you subscribe so you find out how to build your credit score. And if your credit score isn't good, so for instance, because you've just come into the country, that's also fine. It's possible to get a mortgage even though you don't have such a good credit score. The mortgage advisor just have to explain to the bank exactly why. It's not that you have a poor credit history, but it's just because maybe you're new to the country. Sometimes also you might be requiring more money than they're willing to lend you. Like sometimes if you go to the website of the bank directly and you put in all your details, they're going to tell you, we cannot give you this amount of money. But the house that you want is just a little bit more than that. That's where a mortgage advisor comes in handy. In my case as well, the mortgage advisor was really good. They were able to get me a better deal, which is to get me a little bit more money than I would have been able to get on my own if I'd gone directly to the bank. So after you've got a mortgage offer in principle, then you can go start looking for the house. Most estate agents are not going to take you seriously if you don't have a mortgage offer in principle. So If you have this, and it's a certificate that says, okay, this bank is willing to give this person this amount of money, so when you go to look for houses, then you can show it and they'll say, okay, fine, you can view the house. Most of the times they don't mind, but if you have it, then you look more serious and they'll take you more seriously. So then you start looking for houses, you make sure you set up your alerts on Rightmove or whatever website you're using, so that when the property comes up, then you can be like the first person to go there, view the house, see if you like it. Make sure you have your list of criteria that you need to be checking so that you don't waste time. If you like the house, then put in an offer. And then this is where another tip comes. Do not be afraid to offer less than the asking price, because obviously you want room for negotiation. I'll explain what happened later, but this is something that I wish I had known. So if you put in an offer and the offer has been accepted, hooray, it's so exciting. I remember feeling so excited when I put in the offer is accepted, and then you now move on to the next step. So the next step is then to have the full mortgage application. So remember, when you got the mortgage offer in principle, at that point they do only a soft credit check. So at this point they're going to do a hard credit check. So you have to make sure you really want this and you're really dedicated and moving on, because otherwise it's going to affect your credit score for nothing. So mortgage advisor is going to go ahead and do all the paperwork for applying for that. And then you also need to get what is called a conveyancer. These are solicitors or lawyers that deal in property stuff. The solicitors do some things like land searches, finding out if the area is in a protected area, if there's like mining, different like other lawyery stuff that they do, which is out of your control. You don't know how long this is going to take. After all the searches have been done, then hooray, you give in the deposit, then you exchange contracts, and then they give you the key to your house. And that's the whole process of buying a house in the UK. So I'll now explain exactly what went wrong for me and maybe you can learn something and make sure you don't do the same as well. So the first thing is that when it came time for giving an offer, we were so excited, we just gave in the asking price. And in the process of the full mortgage application, the bank has to protect its own interests. So the bank does a valuation of the house, say how much is this house really worth according to them. So for me, in my case, the bank downvalued the property and they said this house is not worth all this money that these people are asking for. When we gave the seller this offer and said, you know what, our bank is not willing to give all this money, they think it's worth this, the seller was like, no, for us, that's how much we want. And so that's how the sale fell through at the end, guys. And I think I could have protected myself in a few ways. Number one is doing my due diligence, making sure you search. Like on Rightmove, they actually show you how much houses in an area cost, and also the particular house, they'll show you the history of that house. So imagine I didn't even do this. They can show you that 5 years ago this house sold for this much. So in my own situation, the particular house had sold just 1 year before, which is not actually a good sign, but anyway, just 1 year before, and it was like 30% cheaper. The seller was claiming that probably in only 1 year the value of the house had gone up by 30%, which is a bit high. So in the end, I was happy that I didn't go through, and I'm looking forward to going through this again, but at a later date, because really it's such a stressful process that we felt like, you know what, we need a break. Let's first hold on, and maybe we'll go through all this at a later time. Make sure you're subscribed so you can eventually see that video when it comes out. That's it, guys. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you want to watch more content like this, then make sure you're subscribed. Thanks, guys. Bye.